Part 1. Intro. Exodus chapter 20 verse 3 says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." When it comes to the Ten Commandments, this first one here seems like a pretty simple, cut and dry one. To start off understanding this verse here, let's define the word God. In Christianity and other monotheistic religions, it is the creator and ruler of the universe and source of all moral authority, the supreme being. In certain other religions, it is a superhuman being or spirit worshipped as having power over nature or human fortunes, a deity. However, it could also be defined as an adored, admired, or an influential person. Depending on how we define other gods, people could call a lot of things by this title of God. However, as we read in the Bible, there's obviously only one true God, which is what this verse here is talking about, how we need to only worship the one true God. However, this idea of having one true God isn't the same for other religions in the world. For example, there's a total of 12 major Greek gods, an estimated 3,000 plus minor gods and goddesses. But that is just the ancient Greek religious world. However, if we look at the worldly religious, there's an estimated between 8 and 12,000 that might have been worshipped at some point in history. Anthropologists estimate that it could have been at least 18,000 different gods, goddesses, and various animals or objects that have been worshipped by humans. With all those numbers and statistics, it begins to make sense why exactly God would make this one of His commandments. Some of these fake and false gods were still around in the time for Moses and the Israelites, found in Genesis chapter 32 verse 4, and then also in Numbers chapter 25 verses 1 and 2. And even though now we don't have most of these gods, we still have all sorts of other gods in modern times too. The reason people worship gods is because they think they can trust in them and that they can receive benefits from it. These gods don't always take a physical form, but instead it could be something that people could worship, trust, and to serve. So when it comes to this commandment, it makes sense that the one true God would want this to be something that is important for His children to remember, something that God would want us to put first on the list of commandments. After all that God has done for us, He doesn't want us, or more specifically here, the Israelites, to throw God to the side after all that He had done for them. He didn't want their faith in Him to diminish or fade away entirely after all that He had done, and more or less throw Him away and serve some fake God after all He had been through and gotten the Israelites out of, just like out of Egypt and of Pharaoh's rule. In this commandment, we are told that there should be no other gods before me. This before me part literally means before my face. It is a Hebrew idiom, and all this is the equivalent to beside me or in addition to me. This just goes to further prove that this commandment requires the worship of the one God and the one God alone, Jehovah. When we look at different translations of Exodus chapter 20 verse 3, most of them translate it to, "You should have no other gods beside me." Others word it as, "Don't worship any other gods but me." Even in different translations of this verse, the wording itself isn't very different at all from the one translation to another. They all point to the same meaning here too, which goes to show that there isn't much left for interpretation. This form of polytheism, the belief in or worship of more than one God, that they are talking about and that is against in this verse, just goes to show the assertion or the claim as Jehovah as superior in all regards to any other God. Or in other words, God is making the claim that there can only be one, and that He is that one. This is not only the claim that He is making, but also the commandment that he is giving for everyone to obey and to know that he is the one and the only, the true God, to which no one else should be compared to or even put on his level.